Hello, Chocy Chat. We're episode 150. It's the 4th of October. It is October this month, I promise. Yeah, it's 4th of October. 82 days till Christmas, 27 days until Halloween. So the chocolate makers, you need to get your skates on and start like doing your stuff. Anyway, so hello. Let me send some waves out. Kelly, how are you? Kelly, that was a record-breaking from the UK to the USA, 3 days. That's pretty outstanding, actually. Who else? Lavoca Chocolates. I know you were on the class the other week in Cheltenham and looks like you had an absolutely amazing time. Who else have got My Life Chocolates? Hello. Ron's Bonbons. How are you, mate? You've had a couple of weeks off. Looking after Dad. I hope your dad's well. Mrs. So Sassy's joined us. Hello, Mrs. So Sassy. Sally Devlin, how are you? Billy there, Scottish Chocolates. Billy's still loving the panning. I got my panning machine this morning. So I'm going to kind of release some details on that, and then we'll do some bits and pieces, and then once I've given it a good run through, I'll share the details of all that stuff. So Christine Hindle up there in Edinburgh, I think. Erin, how is Erin in? I think you're in Portland, don't you? Portland or Seattle, over in that area of the woods anyway, aren't you? So how are you, Erin? Haven't spoken to you for a long time. Who else have we got? Nettie, hello. Chocolate Art UK, hello. Who else have we got? Good evening. Ranny's Mrs. Sosas. Ranny is saying good evening, everybody. So we Friday and Chocy Chat. Chocolate by Neander. How are you? Which colour use for chocolate? This one. Irish cocoa. Best on the planet. Although Lee said I've had, but he wasn't. He was joking. Eclipse Cambridge. Hello. Yeah, Erin, looking forward to panning together. I like panning. It's been a few years since I've done it. I'm sure it'll come back to me very quickly. But it's a smaller 3 kilo machine at quite a kind of reasonable price. So once I've kind of put it through its paces, 'cause it's got its own heating element, but not cold. It's got its own heating element attached to it, but not cold air. So once I put it through its paces, I'm going to share the details of where I bought it, how I got it, what it costs, all those kind of bits and pieces. So, Loney there in Denmark, hello. Misty Max, nice to see you. Tat and Tats, hello. How's everybody doing? So, Chocolasic, I think that reads. So, hello and welcome. Good evening. We're all lass. How are you? Forest Road Chocolate, Stephanie. Forest Road Chocolate saying hello. Chocy Chat friends. Hello. We've got people in South Africa. There's people all over the planet on a night like this. Stuart's joined us from the Lake District. I didn't have anything planned tonight. Last week we did Luster Dust. I got a lot of questions on that. I did do a post earlier today about Bonbon Please. So many messages, so many people saying, yeah, I needed to hear that. I kind of always purvey this same kind of saying that we live in a world where people give advice freely, or they give criticism freely, which is, for my age group, so we're going to say anybody that's Generation X, it's kind of like, who said that you could chip in? But we live in this world where just everything's online. People can write what they want. People can say what they want within reason. And you leave yourself open. I think because what we're doing is so visual, you look at other people's work and go, well, mine's not got that good. Don't seek perfection, seek progress. So every time you make chocolates, you're practicing. Every time you make bonbons, you're practicing. Every time I make something, I learn something, or I observe something that makes me say, right, well, I know I should have done this, or I could have done this better, or I could have done this differently. I think they're important lessons. I think the worst thing to do sometimes, I think certainly with bonbons, because we've all had, certainly Northern Hemisphere, we've all had a few months of kind of not doing a huge amount, mostly looking and scrolling through stuff. So where we start chocolates now, a little bit rusty, maybe some of the details have gone from our work, maybe we're a little bit messier than we usually are, but what's been happening is that we're looking at all this perfection that's online, and I think you just need to take stock and a realistic approach to what you're doing. Make what you enjoy making, make things, and you know, here's a beautiful saying, if it makes sense to you, you don't have to explain it to anybody, right? And I've had all sorts said to me, and it's kind of like, you know, I kind of know what I'm doing, and you leave yourself open to criticism. Sometimes you read comments, you're like, really? You can tell just from that photo or video that my caps are too thick. Really? They're my caps, I'll make them as thick as I want, right? So Yeah, bear that in mind. We've all had a rust. You know, we've all had a few months of not making lots of production, and you'll find that once you get into the swing of it shortly, you get really into your stride. Because really, we've got from now probably to the end of Easter to make money, practice, make chocolates, do designs, try all the things that we've wanted to try. And as you continue down that route for the next few months, you just get better and better and better and better. Then we have a kind of staggered stop. For those that are home producers, yeah, you kind of, you know, it's like May, June, July, August off. And then when you start again, you're a little bit rusty, but you've spent that quiet time, as I said, scrolling through social media, and it can misalign with your abilities with what you see. And I think everybody's just got to take a real objective look and say, that's not me, and that's okay, right? I think that's the message tonight. So. Bonbon Nutgrun, I think, in Holland. How are you? I haven't spoken to you in a long time. Surfer Leg, how are you? Chocodelics joined us there in Jersey. Who else? Alice, who's just up the road. Oil-based colour or gel-based colour? Makeup, neither. Oil-based and gel colours won't work in chocolate. You need coloured cocoa butter. Oil colours, you can't blend those. They will blend into cocoa butter, but it will leave it soft and then it won't retract or it won't shrink, right? So let's talk about retraction. Let's change that word to shrinking. If we temper cocoa butter, it will form a hard layer. And then if we cool it fast enough, it will shrink. And it's the cocoa butter in chocolate that we're trying to temper. And it's the cocoa butter in the colour that we're trying to temper, right? So I'm wanting to make batches of fillings ahead of making chocolates. How to best do this? I'm planning caramels, gandullas, ganaches. I wouldn't make ganaches in advance. You can make ganaches in advance and freeze them, but they just need really well warming and emulsifying before you can use them again. And if I'm honest, they're never quite the same as when you make a mix straight from scratch. So it just seems to have that lack of gloss. I think it's oversaturation with the waters in cream. Pralines and caramels you can make well in advance. You know, they're kind of good, minimum 100 days. The majority of caramels, if you're making a wet caramel and deglazing with cream, easily good for 100 days. They're storable. How far ahead do you need to get with the fillings? You know, you can make nut paste, which then go on and make gandulla or pralines. So I would have thought the majority of bigger producers now, the caramels are done, and I absolutely guarantee the nut pastes are done, bagged, vac packed in a fridge somewhere, just ready to warm up, break out, and then make into fillings. So and caramels, yeah, you can make caramels, you can make base. You know, I answered this last week. You can make base caramels and then rewarm them and turn them into whatever it is that you want to do. If it's like just a caramelized caramel, not fruit caramels, I would always do those kind of as and when I need them, because there's a little bit more water content to them. But those caramels, yeah, you can make those in advance, put them in vac pack bags or Ziploc bags, leave them flat, put them in the fridge. There's no need to freeze them. There isn't really anything in it. You'll find that they don't freeze actually, because the amount of sugar that's in it. So I get those made, get those in the fridge. And I think the nice thing about making caramels in advance, there's the mould from last week, which I haven't even cleaned up yet. If you know what, if you make caramels in like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 kilo batches, if you know your mould is like this one, 290 grams, if I'm doing one mould of a certain caramel, we'll just weigh out 290 grams and go with it. It just saves a lot of kind of messing around. If I can do multiple batches, we'll do multiple batches, right? Certainly things like salt caramel, definitely. So, we've also got pretty fancy chocolates there, again in New Zealand. Surfer Leg Chocolates, I think, is down in New Zealand as well. Lots of new faces, lots of new names here. If you're new, fire questions ahead, by all means. It's that time. Well, I can't believe we're on episode 150. Goes quick, doesn't it? It goes really. Temper, hello. Stuart, we've had lovely sunshine all day today, so if it's raining up north, sorry, not sorry. We've had blue sky, it's been beautiful. I just head down making this stuff at the minute, trying to catch up, right? True story. Who else? Everybody's been really quiet tonight. Why is everybody quiet tonight? Oh God, I'm getting all sorts of messages going on here. So let me scroll down a tiny bit. Did I miss a question? Let me scroll back a second. Mouth explosions. Hello to all the great people. That's us, Chocky Chat crew. Some lovely posts this week. Some lovely chocolate. Some Halloween. Halloween brings out all the artists, doesn't it? I think Halloween is one of those, like, you don't get lots of sales, but there are. Halloween is one of those ones where you can get really creative with the space that you've got in bonbons to make some really, really kind of photogenic, videoable. It's not a real word, that, videoable, but you can capture some great film images of the work that you do, and I'm kind of glad that in the lead up to getting busy to Christmas, like we got a chance to do these kind of scary morsels, right? I don't know what it is, but this shape lends itself really, really well to doing the kind of fun stuff. And I know, like, Halloween, it doesn't generate lots of sales, because if you think about Halloween, it's kind of about cheap candy and cheap stuff. And if you've got the market for it, by all means, absolutely do not go for it. They're great showpieces, and they're great for advertising, and they're great for showing some different variety of skills off. But I always like this time of year because you just get to see it's the spider webs, it's the ghosts, it's the ghouls, it's the monsters. Ron's Bonbons just posted the little green, monsters, like yellow and purple eyes. It's really, 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 really cool. Yeah, there's so much inspiration. That Chocky Chat page is doing really, really well. Had to kick a couple of people out recently for comments that were flagged, and then also one thing that was inappropriate, but those people got removed because I'm kind of just not having that. The Facebook page is just to be absolutely supportive and share ideas. That's it. No selling. I don't even sell on there, right? So, but there is lots and lots and lots of inspiration. So, and I was looking at the Chocky Chat crew hashtag, which is absolutely fantastic. There's so much good stuff on there. It's really, really inspiring. Here's a question Mr. Max is asking. When I shell 2 trays, the first one retracts and no retraction on the second, even after putting in a cold fridge. I'm assuming it's the same chocolate. There's no reason why it wouldn't, other than are you warming? Once you poured the first one, are you then rewarming the chocolate? That would cause the beta crystals to break. There's no reason why the second one wouldn't. I tell you what is often overlooked is if we're shelling 2 trays, time, right? I'll show you. If I was shelling those two, there's going to be kind of a minute or 2 difference between each one, right? So once I've tipped out, so if I fill that one, and I fill that one at the same time and I tap them out, we're going to be good. If I fill that one first and tap that out, then the chocolate's waiting. Then we fill that one and we'd leave them on their side. But there's like a minute or 2 difference between them. They need to stay out at room temperature. We're waiting for that chocolate to go dull. If I put both of them in the fridge, it's likely that the first tray would retract very, very quickly. And the second one, because it's still maybe a little bit wet, might not. We don't want to put wet chocolate into a fridge. It needs to be dull, and it kind of needs resting at room temperature. I always say about 10 minutes. Depends on how cold. You know, if the room is a little bit colder, we'll leave it out for 8 minutes, and I'll leave them out stood upright, okay, so that we can get airflow around it, and any warmth that's in there goes up. There is at the point where those crystals bind together, it's called nucleation, right? And it can raise the heat. I'll give you an example. When I make these in the other workshop, so they go into a dosing unit and it's all measured, right? And then the lid goes on, and then they go into a cold space and they retract from the bottle, okay? Just so that I can get a nice neat package of it, right? If I take them out of the fridge too long and leave them on the side, you can feel them get warmer and warmer and warmer, almost like they're melting again, and it's called nucleation. Where all those crystals bind up, it actually generates a little bit of friction and a little bit of heat. And it could be that. This is why that once you shell, you want these, we would fill it with chocolate, we'd tap everything out, we'd scrape it nice and clean. I leave it upside down just till it goes dull. The moment it's gone dull, I turn it on its side. Certainly this is what I teach. We turn it on its side and it allows airflow all the way through it, and any warm air can go upwards. If you leave it upside down, the air will get, you know, you can feel it on top after you shell. The warm air can get, if we've got no air circulating, the warm air can get stuck, which is why you can end up with like little bits of what looks like bloom. It's just really light dusting of bloom. So we turn it on its side and let all the warm air. Then we want to leave it for like 8-9 minutes, 8-9-10 minutes sometimes, just to let that completely get cold. And then when we put it into a cold space, then they'll all retract together. That could be it, Mr. Max. That could be it. It's hard to tell. Many questions, but I know that when I do the butters and the volume that we do, you know, we're putting 50-60 bottles in the cold at one point. If I bring them out too early, and generally I time all this stuff, right? So I know from the point where the lids go on, and I know how long they need to go into the fridge based on how many have gone in there. And then I'll move some around as well, so we've got better workflow. And then there is a big gap. There's an 8-centimeter gap between each one, so I know that I've got all the airflow. If I take them out kind of before that 14 minutes, I can put my laser on there, and I can see them go from, like, you know, 8 degrees and start climbing up to 12, 14, 15. It could be that the core is still liquid, but it's unlikely. But it's nucleation, and it's where all those crystals bind up and it generates warmth, right? That's why we've got to leave them. That's why the time is important. If you shell, if you pour the chocolate in and you shell and you tap it out and you scrape and it's nice and neat and tidy, if you put that straight in the fridge, you would find that next to none of them would shrink or retract. I know, I've done the experiment, right? Danielle, first time here, welcome. If you've got questions, fire away. I need to remember to use the hashtag. The Chocky Chat Crew hashtag's got some really wonderful posts on it. I don't own Chocky Chat Crew. I am part of Chocky Chat Crew. Just bear that in mind, all right? I just get to sit here and kind of direct it on a Friday night. Try. Real Lass is saying, I've got some chocolate from a local bean to bar maker, but there's no lecithin, so dreading trying to temper it. I don't have silk, usually seed or use micro. Do I just heat and add 1% as normal? Yeah, look, chocolate without lecithin is starting to become more and more common. We use lecithin at that making stage to make, because sugar is a liquid in a crystallized form, okay? So there's not a water content in it, but there is some moisture in it. There can be some moisture in it. We use lecithin, and lecithin only works when chocolate's in a liquid state to just keep a kind of a water-based molecule and a fat-based molecule bound together. It does work. If you're using micro, I would suggest that rather than kind of stirring it in or whisking it in, I'd get a stick blender on it to generate more speed of movement and keep that any emulsion that's in there, just keep that active. Lecithin doesn't really have a job in chocolate once the chocolate's set, so the aim is to just get it melted. Don't take it too high a temperature, as you might find it will separate. But I would have thought it's okay. I would have thought it's okay. And if it's dark chocolate, the chocolate mass in there is very good at binding up cocoa butter anyway, right? You tend to find more lecithin being used in white and milk chocolate. It just needs much more emulsifying, right? Give it a go. Test 200 grams. Test 200 grams and put, 0.2 grams or 1 gram in there and just see whether that works for you or not. Like if you spray it onto, if you just do a tester, tell you what you're looking for. If you did 200 grams and put like a gram of micro in there and just give it a really good mix. If you pour it onto a mat and leave it on the table to cool down, you will find that the edges will curl up because that's how it shrinks. Okay, so you end up with this kind of wok shape. The thicker that layer of chocolate, the more it retracts and the more it instead of having a lovely flat tray, it curls up at the edges. Just give it a little tester on that. Dipping paper in was the other thing, and I talked to a student about this on a hands-on class because they're like, well, I put the paper in and wait to see what's happened when it's dried. Well, we're waiting for it. We're waiting for the edge. We're not looking to see whether it's tempered or not. We're looking to see whether the edges of that paper curls up. Because if it does curl up, it means all those beta crystals in there are bound and shrunk, which is why it's formed the shape curled up. That's when you know it's tempered, right? Whether it's smooth and shiny on top will have more to do with not how well tempered it was, it's the cooling rate of it, right? Because if we can temper chocolate, but if we don't cool it fast enough, it won't shrink, and we need it to shrink, otherwise it sticks in the mold, right? Kelly's saying, as it gets cooler here, if they retract without fridge as it dries, is there any benefit from putting in the fridge? No, not at all, Kelly. Do you know what? For me, this time of year, we got nets on the windows, but if I crack the window open and I've got cold air coming through, and outside it's kind of 8 degrees, I can see them retract in this mould. If I line them all up on the windowsill there, I can see them all retract much more evenly. If anything, it's nicer because it's generally cold air. I don't have humidity in these fridges. If I do need to use the fridge, it's absolute minimum. But do you know what? If it's cooler, absolutely, there's no benefit of using one or the other. But do you know what? I'd much prefer to see the moulds retract or shrink with my eyes on them rather than putting them in the fridge for a minute, open the door. Do you know? So yeah, if it's cooler where you are, yeah, go for it. Bit more energy efficient as well, actually. Can you temper milk and dark chocolate together, as in a mix of both? Yeah, absolutely. The only thing we're tempering in chocolate is the cocoa butter content. If you mix, I blend chocolates all the time. I blend chocolates all the time. We've got one that we make for a spa that has a salt caramel in it, but they absolutely wanted to have dark chocolate, and I did try to explain to them, like, it's just going to be too strong, because they wanted Manjari, which is like 64%, and I just think that's too strong for the blonde salt caramel. So the compromise was we added 30% milk chocolate to the Manjari, a 30% Behebe to the 64, just to tone it down a tiny bit. You can mix milk, white and dark all together. Chocolate is chocolate. If it's got cocoa butter in it, the only reason we're tempering it is to make those beta crystals, the cocoa butter, behave so that it will either retract or have the snap and the shine and all those bits. So absolutely, you can blend them. Chocolate's chocolate. If it's got cocoa butter, and we'll call it couverture, but I wouldn't use anything other than couverture. I wouldn't like the we call it Scotch block, but you know, the vegetable fat and the cocoa matte. It's not something I'd use. There's no advantage for me to use that. There's no point in tempering it either. So you can blend all your chocolates. You could blend milk, white, dark, ruby and caramelized if you want to. It will still temper exactly the same way as the others, right? Also really nice to blend chocolates, I think. We make a filling. So the route that we would go, we don't pick the shelling chocolate until the filling's made, right? So once we've tasted the filling, then we will line up different chocolates with each one and taste that filling with each chocolate to see what suits it or settles it. And I'm not talking about a small amount either. The amount of filling would be probably more than you would have in a 12 gram, 13 gram bonbon, right? And we'll put the pieces of chocolate with it, so it's roughly about the same size. So if I've got 11 grams of filling on that spoon, I'd be looking to put 2 grams of the chocolate to give me a good idea of what one of those would weigh. So if we got a caramel and we're using a spice, I've got some spices from Paul he gave me from Australia. So we're going to test those real time with the same volume. So we're not going to do like a tiny little bit of caramel and a little bit of chocolate. We're going to do the volumes that would necessarily be a bonbon without me having to make a bonbon, right? To see if they work together. If it's a little bit aggressive, we'll tone it down. If it's not quite sweet enough, we'll see how it plays out and how it balances and what flavour brings. I think the one thing I would say with the shelling chocolate, it's not as visible on the tongue. What that means is, like, would there be any point in shelling in Manjari? Probably not. Would I thin that down? Probably not. I tend to use the nicer chocolates for fillings, and then we will shell with kind of I want to say a standard chocolate, but again, it depends on what the filling is and it depends on what we're doing. But I don't necessarily select the highest range chocolate to shell with. It's 2 grams with the cap, which is normally 0.5, 0.6 gram. we've got 3 grams of chocolate in a 13 gram, but you know, the overriding factor in there is the filling. So to see what works together, we'll give it a taste. I want something that's not going to overpower the filling. Equally, I want a shell that's not going to be so sweet it kind of kills off the flavour. As things get sweeter, the other flavours kind of disappear because sugar is what overrides everything, right? I talked about this the other week about having... The nice thing about making giandujas, I think, is that you've got an opportunity to make some quite savoury fillings. When I say savoury, like on the line of being salty and savoury as opposed to being really, really sweet, which ganaches generally are, right? Gives you some balance. I don't think hazelnut's particularly nice when it's very, very sweet. I think hazelnut's really, really nice when it's dark and bitter chocolate, because it brings out those kind of earthy notes, right? So would I put hazelnut with white chocolate? Probably not. I think the sugar and the sweetness of white chocolate kind of kills off hazelnut. If that makes sense. It's all about balance, right? Any tips on making an apple pie inspired bonbon? Yeah, there's a question. There's an apple caramel. I've answered this quite a few times. I'm going to go through this one again. So we got lots of varieties of apples, so you need to pick the one. I wouldn't be picking Bramleys because they're great in apple pies, but they kind of lack a depth of flavour for such a small bonbon, right? So I would pick a red apple that's sweet, but very fibrous and low acidity, and I would pair it with a green apple like a Granny Smith, even Golden Delicious to some extent, it's acidic and watery, and then we've got a fibrous and sweet, and I would blend those two together, pips, skin, everything, absolutely blend the lot up, and then sieve all that out, and then you'll have the best of both worlds, right? So the reason we put the skin in there, the reason we put the pips in there, we're going to blend absolutely everything, because a lot of the flavour of fruits is in the skin or just underneath the skin. All that malic acid is almost just under the skin, so that's the acidity we're looking for from the green apple. And then the biggest layer of the sweet fibre is just under the skin on the red apples. Take those two, and I'd make a fluid gel with part of that mixed juice. We need to add a little bit more acid, we can, but I'd make a fluid gel with that. I'd do that one on the bottom. I wouldn't be putting whole apple in there, so I'd probably be doing a like an apple caramel. And then if you did a little fluid gel and then an apple caramel, you're going to get two cold items, but the gel almost on the tongue will taste warm, and the gel almost tastes cold and the caramel tastes warm. You know, you eat caramel, it's like that, got that warming feeling to it. But you could get apple into it, you could get spices into it, certainly get cinnamon into it. You could do a cookie layer, which is as simple as the fouilletine, maybe a drop of vanilla, maybe a drop of cinnamon into it. Roughly two-thirds white chocolate to 1/3 fouilletine, really powder it, pipe that on as like a crust, and then cap it, and you kind of encapsulate the flavours of caramel. I think the important thing with apple, and it's one of the few flavours we'll put a flavour drop into. Where are you? I don't use lots of these. I've not been a big fan over the years, but do you know, one of the things that I have recognised, I've got two there. One's apple and one's cherry, okay? Available from that shop named after the river in South America. Apple's very difficult to get pronounce the flavour from it, so we can get the taste because we've got acidities, but I would always, like caramels and things, we'll just do 1 or 2 drops, and it's 1 or 2 drops per litre. We'll just give a background flavour and raise the apple. The only reason we do cherry, apple, another one's banana, because those flavours have been diluted over the years because of synthetic flavouring. So a lot of people, that they have an apple and it's like, it doesn't taste very appley. You're eating a real apple, it doesn't get any more real apple than a real apple, right? Banana's another one. Somebody eats a banana, they're like, well, it doesn't taste like the Nesquik cereals. Yeah, that's because you've been brought up on the wrong thing. So, my opinion. So, I would do that. I think the thing with apple is to get the juice out of it. I think you need to blend both. If you do just green apples, you watch it. If you do just red apples, you watch it turn green in front of you, or brown. It'll oxidise. And if you do just green apple, it's just too much acidity. If you try and reduce it down, it's too sharp. It's way too sour. Blend two together. I think that's all. Cox's apples, Cox's pippins. are perfect, because if you can get hold of them, and they're tiny little apples, they're like, it's the ultimate. Cox's pippins are the ultimate eating apple. It's got a really appley flavour. If you can afford to buy some, I would puree or put those through a juicer, skin, pips, everything, and make a caramel and a fluid gel from Cox's pippins. If you can't get hold of those, get a good red apple, good green apple, combine those in equal amounts, and then sieve that juice off, and then process like you normally would, right? I answered that. That was long-winded, but yeah, I think, and the crust. You know, you could make shortbread and roll that out. You could do a ganache, you could do 4 layers, you could do a little bit of fluid gel, you could do a tiny bit of apple caramel, you could do a kind of biscuit, a soft biscuit, fouilletine, custardy type flavour, and then put a cap that's actually got fouilletine in it. So we did white chocolate, equal amounts, white chocolate to powdered fouilletine, and then put that on and then scrape. You'll have very, very rough caps, but they'll have that lovely little bit of crunch to it, right? Happy day, surfer leg. There you go, answered that one. I saw a video by Martitello when using the melter. You just add 30% of the chocolate after it's all melted and stir. Wait for it to drop to 30 degrees. What's your thoughts on that? Caramel and creams. The thing with tempering is, you know, like, so running is the action, but the marathon is a race that you go in. Like, so just because you run to the end of the road doesn't mean you can do a marathon. And with tempering, there's more happening than just hitting certain temperatures. Although you see this on the bags, where it says 45, 27, 31. It doesn't really mean much. Melting it to 45, how quickly? And then we're calling it 27. Okay, how quickly? How fast do we do that, and how do we do that? And then warming it up, how hot, how aggressively hot, and how much of the beta crystals you're going to damage in that warm up. I suppose technically, do you know, if I put chocolate in at 45, we melted it, and I added a third, as long as the machine is off, unplugged, yes, it's going to cool down, but I'd want to be measuring it. I think the challenge I have with tempering in a big melting tank is, can I get round all the edges, right? Can I get round all the edges? Because if there's 1 or 2 bits in there that aren't tempered, that's going to be the bits that go in the mould, right? And that could be the streak that runs down the middle that isn't tempered, right? So you get all of the mould retract apart from like one little line. It's whether you can get it all blended or not. It's possible, do you know? It's possible. It's no different to having a big bowl of chocolate, and we pour 2/3 onto a marble slab and stir it all round, and then once that reaches 27, we turn the remainder of that 2/3, we put that into the bowl of chocolate that was 41, and then bring that temperature down, maybe pour out a quarter, cool that until we got everything substantially down to 27, and then very, very gently warm it up. There's no reason you couldn't get it to work. There are easier ways of tempering, believe me. You can drop. So with seeding, let's explain this really, really easily for everybody, right? Seeding, we would take that volume of chocolate, and we'd heat it to 45 degrees, okay? Then we get a third and put that chocolate in and stir, right? And we'd stir for a few hours until our shoulder falls off, okay? And I've read sometimes people say, well, once it gets to 30, you could use it. But if at 30, I think you'd find there's still lumps in there. So you can fish those lumps out, right? But those lumps that you pulled out are the chocolate, because when we're seeding, absolutely nothing has changed until we start getting below 33.8. So we've got that massive chocolate at 45, and we put that third in and we stir. If that chocolate got to 34 degrees, for example, there's no beta crystals in there. There's none at all, because we're above the temperature that they would melt, okay? So it's how quickly does that happen? And the chocolate that's going in there needs to have been well tempered, because if we got 45 degree chocolate and we take chocolate that's not very well tempered, right, or is completely untempered, and we add that to it, we're not going to be adding good seeding chocolate to the already melted chocolate that we took the seed out of. So I think it's important to know that, like, nothing, absolutely nothing has changed until you get below 33.8. So that's 3.8 degrees. So technically, yeah, you could go down to 30, but I know that beta crystals form their strongest at 26.4, right? Science. We know this from science. So if we go a little bit below 27 to 26.4, then we know that we got maximum amount of beta crystals distributed. We can stir it and agitate it so they're mixed. Then we want to really, really carefully, gently warm this up. If we give this a blast in the microwave, it's likely that we're just going to shock all the beta crystals out. And for each degree that we warm it up after 30 degrees, we're going to lose 20% of beta crystals. So by the time we reach 33, we'll have lost 50 to 60% of the beta crystals that were in there. It's the warm up that does the damage, right? So yes, you could. There's easy ways of doing it. It'd probably be easy to melt it to 45, put it in a bowl where you can measure it accurately, right? We can't guess temperature and we can't guess weight. We can have a sort of, but for all of you that are making chocolates at home, guessing the temperature has been half the problems of why things go wrong. We can't guess temperature. And when we're talking about 33.8 and 0.1 of a degree, it's the difference between it working and not. Like tempering your cocoa butter or spraying it at a certain temperature, it's the difference between it working and not, right? So chocolate shells, how are you, Michelle? Most people have issues in the summer with chocolate with no lecithin. If it's been delivered in a refrigerated jar, just from questions I've had from chefs, it will come apart. If like I said, lecithin's got no job. Lecithin's not real any job once the chocolate's solidified. It's when it melts, that's when it starts working, right? So also, if you get any acids in there, that's going to kill off any lecithin. So Kelly, I do exactly that. If it's cool enough outside at night, crack open a window and let the air do it. So is there a difference between cacao and cocoa butter? No, same thing. Although cacao butter I've seen labelled as shea butter, which is a totally different thing altogether, right? No difference, just a difference in spelling. What fillings pair best with white chocolate? Any fruits that are acidic, in my opinion. So any fruits that are acidic. White chocolate's quite versatile because it will take spices, it will take red fruits, it will take perfumed fruits, it will take exotic fruits, it will take highly acidic fruits, so passion fruit, those kind of thing. It's quite, white chocolate, milk chocolate are really versatile. Dark chocolate's one. I'm not a big fan of dark chocolate with red fruits at all, and I absolutely really do not like passion fruit and dark chocolate. I think one cancels out the other, right? It's total mismatch in my opinion. So white chocolate's really versatile. I think the majority of everything, it will take spices, it will take fruits, it will take acidic fruits. Really, really good. Not great with hazelnut and the earthy flavours. So like if I was doing, it will take macadamia, but it's not great with cashews, it's not great with walnuts, it's really not very nice with walnuts and pecans, but it is rather kind of nice with pistachios aren't a nut nor a cashews. So yeah, lemon's always good, blackberries are good. Hello, welcome. There's some good answers here. There's some really good answers. You have to read through the comments. If you join the live, you get to read the comments. Unfortunately, when I save it, it doesn't keep the comments. So, Instagram, please get your act together. It'd be great if you could just save what everybody's writing down, because it's such valuable information on the night, right? Welcome to the best group in the world. How you doing, Jason? Caramel creams. If you add silk, yeah, that work. I'd maybe do a couple of percent, instead of doing 1%, maybe do 2% and I'd get a stick blender in. If there's no lecithin, I'd get a stick blender in there just to create enough friction going through it, right? So it probably shell as well at a lower temperature, right? Just so that you're saving yourself. Does anyone capping bonbons with film? Film goes out after each chocolate's crystallized. Does anyone capping bonbons with a film? What do you mean film goes out after chocolate's crystallized? Do you mean acetate? Simon Woodrow, how are you, sir? Dolce Mara's joined us. Hello, hello. There's lots of people joining. So, Luke, how are you? Blackberry for rosemary infusion and layer with a ganache. That sounds really nice. I like blackberry and rosemary. I think they work really, really well together. I had blueberry and rosemary, and I thought, oh, that was because I'd seen a blueberry and lavender, and it was blueberry and rosemary, and it's like, that is really interesting, and that did work for me. And there's an old partridge dish that we used to do years and years ago, and it was stuffed with the rosemary, like the heather, and the blueberries, because that's where the animal lives and what it feeds on. So it kind of made sense to me in my mind. But yeah, it worked really, really well. Luke, yeah, Luke's there. Luke, I will see you on the 15th. I think you got my email, didn't you? Chocolate Art UK, received my EzTemper this week. Happy days. I've said this so many times. I'm not a big fan. I don't promote stuff massively. If I was going to start again, if I was going to start from scratch again, that's something I would have bought sooner. Look at the state of that. I'm so busy at the minute. I kind of we have 4 of these on the go, and it still isn't enough to keep up with what we're doing, right? And there's about 3 kilos in each one, to give you an idea of the volume. If I was going to start again, EzTemper, it does what it says on the can, right? It's just easy to temper with, right? Silk's a good thing. Micro's a very, very good thing, but the next step up, if I was going to start again, that would be a purchase, without a doubt. I'd have purchased that earlier. So, Hashim there in Bahrain, wa alaikum salam. Blackberry and peanut, very French, and it's not often, French often don't like peanut. They don't eat a lot of peanut. I was chatting to Chris Harvey about this one, with cassis and peanut. I had a cassis or blackcurrant and peanut. Really, 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 really good. There's 2 flavours that just, when you nail it, it's absolutely amazing. So there's no reason why blackberry and peanut wouldn't work together, right? Like the sandwich. I don't have a link for that machine. You need to. I don't have anything to do with the sales of that. I show it because I like using it. It's made a huge difference to my business and the way that I work, certainly when I'm doing chocolate, certainly when I'm teaching. I also recognise that like the EzTemper has actually made it easier for a lot of people. For those that own it, it's not a cheap purchase. However, if you're serious about this and you want to do bigger volume, the hardest task I've got really is melting a big enough amount of chocolate, which is not a difficult task, right? So let me put that away before I drop it like it's hot. I think somebody's got some cleaning to do. When you add silk to your bowl, do you use a spoon or a whisk to stir? A whisk. When you add the silk, I haven't got it in here with me. It's a whisk with a flat. It's like, I think it was an egg beater, right? And it's like this coil. It's this loop with a coiled spring that almost goes around it. I use that because it doesn't whip lots of air into it. Once I get past, like, a bigger, if that's got like 1.7 kilos in it, we'll put the bar mix in there and give it a good blend, because I just can't mix it enough. If it's a small amount, 300, 400, 500 grams, we will use, I'll just use a whisk just to bleed that through without incorporating too much air into it. We'll get, once we've mixed all the silk in there, I'll get rid of the whisk, and then we'll use a spoon just to make sure we can kind of get any air bubbles to the top and all that kind of thing. So, chef's tip of the day: get the air bubbles out here, okay, before you pour it in here. Then you won't have to spend ages trying to get the bubbles out of here, right? It's all logic. It's a good tip, that. It's a good tip. I show that to people and they're like, why did I never think of that? These are the little things that we kind of run out of practice when we're not making chocolates regularly or working clean and tidy. If you're not sure what working clean and tidy is, go back and have a look at some of my posts on what working clean and tidy is, right? Hello in Canada. It is in Canada, but mine came in from the USA, so I'm not really sure how that worked. So, But they ship them all over the world. It's a good toy. It's more than a toy, actually. Quite crucial. Until you knock the blue light off, right, Kelly? Kelly knows about knocking the blue light off on the EzTemper. I had a big order a while ago, it's last year sometime, and I had everything ready. Melters are on, you know, we got 120 moulds to shell, not a problem at all. Chocolates in all the melters, everything's ready to go. I accidentally knocked the switch on the blue light that's on the top, which is the fan. So it overheated, and I came down in the morning, opened it up, it's all liquid. It's like, you have to wait 24 hours. Let's get some silk. There's no way that I was going to seed 25 kilos of chocolate. It just wasn't going to happen. So, wasn't going to happen. Yeah, make sure. I come in here and I have to check. I wish those buttons were a little bit raised, or at least facing forwards, so that you could see if they're on or not. Because when the light shines through the window, the blue light looks like it's on, even when it's unplugged. So for anybody with EzTemper, it's a little bit like babysitting. You do go over and go, yeah, are the lights here? If the red light goes off, there's no power to the unit, but the blue one is the fan. And if the fan gets turned off, the machine overheats. And at 33 degrees, your butter will just turn to a liquid. But with the fan on, it keeps it in that stable condition where beta crystals will form, right? So, yeah, a little bit of light through the window, you're like, oh no, it's turned off. I used a lot of sentence enhancing that day. And when you pick up the phone and tell the client that, yeah, we're going to be 24 hours behind because I hit the wrong switch last night when I was cleaning up. Oh, here's a nice one. Here's a nice one. So Stephanie and Erin, if you can have a read here, they're sharing some cracking. They're sharing some brilliant ideas here. Lemon meringue pie bonbon, pipe marshmallow, lemon curd, graham cracker crust in white shells. Sounds good. Sounds like something I'd eat. Can you freeze Calibut praline? You can. I don't know why you would. It's a nut paste with sugar in there, so it probably won't freeze. It will stay as a liquid. Sugars don't freeze. The reason alcohol doesn't freeze is the sugar content, right? Everybody knows that. It just doesn't taste sweet because it's alkalized, right? But the sugar content's still in there, or the calorie value of it. Nut paste don't freeze. They solidify a little bit, but they come back to room temperature in moments. Yeah, no reason to freeze Calibut praline. It should have a good shelf life. I think I would do. I'm a big fan of. Let me grab one. And I'll show you. This is a black sesame one. We'll put them in vac pack. Okay. The reason you get the tubs, and for anybody that's ever bought in the kind of ready-made pralines, what happens is they separate, so you end up with this calcified layer on the bottom, which you can't even get a spoon into. Like if you try to dig down, right, the spoon will break before you get any of the praline paste out. I think the best thing to do is to store it upside down for a couple of days to let it all kind of get through. It's a bit like peanut butter. The bottom is just solid, isn't it, right? Is top and tail it for a couple of days until it's all kind of fully mixed again, and I would get it into a backpack bag so that you can then at least massage it and give it a move round and get it back to a state where it's well mixed, all right, and it's not oil at one end and nut paste at another. So quick question, if that does happen, could you just table temper the liquid cocoa butter until the mayonnaise consistency and put it back in the EzTemper? No, slightly different process. Whilst that is tempering, what it's not doing is over tempering. If you accidentally hit the switch and you take these containers out, okay, have I got one available? I don't, they've all got a seed in them. So if you take that container out and it's really liquid, if you leave it at room temperature, you'll notice that it just doesn't solidify at all. You kind of need to, you can turn the temperature up. Mine is at a very low temperature. Mine's at 31.8, which is quite a low temperature, but that's the cocoa butter that we use, right, for the colours. Other brands, yeah, kind of needs to sit at 33 or 20, you know, 32.8 or 33 degrees. What you can do is just turn the temperature up a little bit for the first 12 hours and then monitor it and turn it down if you need to. You're looking for that mayonnaise consistency, but if I melted cocoa butter and I put it in there and then left it in the machine, kind of it's not going to change because I got rid of all the beta crystals when I overheated it. So you could table it and it would thicken again. I just think you're going to be very short of beta crystals actually in it. The process is time bonding and all those kind of things. So tell us something about tempering and painting on chocolate. I am going to Choc Charmly. There is a post coming out very shortly that's going to go on my page and then also on the YouTube channel and then also on the website on how to use the colours and how to temper them properly and how I would do it every single time. So I'm not going to share that now, but that's going to be on a video releasing very, very shortly. I'm just tying up the loose ends on the website and then I'm hoping that I'm waiting on the stickers coming for the top. As soon as I got those, which I think is Monday, then these will go up on the site. They'll be available to purchase. They're the cocoa pearls. For people that do panning and people that do glazing, it's aimed more at the patisserie world than it is the chocolate world. But for anybody that does panning, they're kind of quite crucial for that. So Fusion, my machines are set at 35.7 at the moment, but has colour at cocoa butter, as you can get my normal. Different cocoa butters, different temperatures, different machines, different levels. I know that Paul has got the Kadzama, which generally needs a higher temperature, but actually you need to take the temperature of the actual cocoa butter, not the machine. What the machine is saying is the parameters that it's set by. So it will normally drop 1 degree below, but not go 1 degree above, 0.1 degree above. So you actually need to take the temperature of the cocoa butter. That will tell you. You don't want to go on. I mean, I don't look at the top of that. We will actually probe the cocoa butter to give me an actual temperature of the actual cocoa butter, not the temperature of the machine. Temperature of the machine is a different thing altogether. It's Maggie, Marvellous Chocolates. Long time no see. How are you, young lady? I hope you're well. Yeah, Erin, Erin, you're gonna have to wait. I've had a little bit on my plate at the minute. I've been a little bit of a busy boy, and I'm not gonna lie. We got back Monday before last, and I've not stopped yet. And I'm literally doing 6 in the morning till late at night. I'll finish the live tonight, and I've got more bottles to make because it's going quicker than I can make it at the moment, which is fine, and it's not a complaint, but that's the game I'm in. I will get to the pearls when I get to them. It's been quite a with the pearls. Could you colour chocolate and then pipe into 3D chocolate shapes as coloured dots? Yes, you can. They are for colouring white chocolate. So do you have any suggestions to the best way to preserve fresh herbs for use through the winter? Dry freeze them? Yeah, do you know what? Couple of things here. Certainly something we used to do in restaurants. This works with strawberries as well, right? If you've got kilner jars, put a little bit of cloth in the bottom of the kilner jars, pick your herbs fresh, put them in the kilner jar and seal the top. Kilner jars are the glass jars with the rubber seal and the clip. Creates its own little environment and they last ages. If you want to dry herbs, you can dry, so there's hard herbs and soft herbs. Soft herbs are probably better dried and hard herbs are better frozen. So the hard herbs are the sage, rosemary, thyme, we describe as oily ones. The soft herbs are the chives, dill, basil is a soft herb. They, you know, if you try and freeze them, they turn black, but if you dry them, they can go a little bit bitter, but the soft herbs are better to dry. The hard herbs, just pull off the bits, put it in a Ziploc bag, put it in the freezer. Rosemary, it will turn a little bit back, but it will hold all its flavour still, right? What about the price of the pearls? Will they come in multi-packs of colours? No, they're going to be individually done. Styling chocolate. Price, as soon as we get the last label in and I've seen how everything's working, the prices will go up on the website. You know what you can do though is with the herbs, and I've seen people do this. Things like basil and chives, they've just turned it into a puree and put it into. I've seen people freeze them in these. Right? There's a very, very cheap brand of these that you can get kind of online, and they make little frozen blocks of herbs and then just pop them out. There's a channel on YouTube called Living Alaska, and they are full of lots of really, really cool tips on preserving and picking wild forage foods, right? Absolutely fascinating, but all good. Chocolates by the Macaroon, how are you? How are you, Maggie? I need to have a catch up with you, young lady, don't I? I need to catch up with lots and lots of people. I'm looking forward to working with Massimo Pica next week. Happy days. I hope you enjoy that more than you did the last celebrity chef. Les said that's a joke between myself and Michelle. I'm sure that'll be absolutely fascinating. Actually, really, really good. Yeah, it will be, Andrew. It'll be one of each colour of the pearls. So there's blue, red, yellow, white, and orange. Okay, and they are set within the legal limit of what you could use in a certain amount of mix, right? So, do you use silicones to draw on bonbons? I hope you understand what I'm talking about. Yeah, we use sponges. They come as a pack of 5, okay? But there's a young lady in the house who insists on taking all the small ones. Should we see if there's any small ones left? Wow, Sophia, you really have. Yeah, we do. Do you mean those? They are art sponges. Oh, there's a pack there with all of them in. These big ones I get left to cut down myself, which is why there's loads of open. That's why there's open packets. But yeah, I think the trick with these, and I always get asked like, how do you wash it? I don't. I use them and I dispose of them, and I write the price of that into the product that I'm making. Right. I don't want loads of those hanging around that have got cocoa butter. And they're not easy to wash out because you would need soap, and sponges hold on to the soap, and the last thing I want to do is put detergent into some of these bonbons. So yeah, a certain online shopping place for the sponges. Yep, you can. I think we buy them in packs of 50, and they work out of like 22 pence for a pack, right? So it's not a huge amount of money, but it keeps things neat and tidy. And because I'm teaching hands-on classes, we go through a huge amount of stuff. So on a normal day, we'll go through 3 or 4 packs of these, demonstrating different techniques and different bits and pieces. So Andrew's saying, could you mix the pearls to get different colours? Yeah, absolutely. One green and one blue and one yellow is going to give you green. The orange is standalone. If you wanted to different scales of yellow, you could use 6 pearls or 5 and a white, 4 and 2 white. If you wanted lime green, you might do 1 blue and 4 of the yellow. You can blend them like you would. They're the primary colours. So the primary colours are only, so all colours are made. Like if you wanted to make aqua shimmer or the aqua colours or the breakfast at, you can colour white chocolate in that style. So if you wanted to make white chocolate breakfast at, you'd use the blue, and the yellow, and maybe some of the white as well to tone down some of the green. So yes, you can blend them. The only ones you can't do is you can't mix all the primary colours together because you get brown. And then orange, the reason we did orange is because there was such a demand for people saying, why can't we get an orange colour that we can use in without it diluting. I think the challenge with using these in white chocolate is it thins down the chocolate too much, which is why we've kind of come out with the pearls. If anybody's doing panning, you will know what I mean. If you start emptying one of those in, it starts to get very, very, very expensive. And then you change the fluidity of your chocolate, which causes you more problems. You end up using more chocolate because you're putting on thin layers, right? So, happy day. They're called craft sponges. They've got lots of names. Craft sponges, lots of varieties. Have a look at that online shop. There's plenty available. Art shops, you can get all this stuff. It's normally under kids painting, I find it, right? So stop talking about the pearls. I'm trying to be patient. More to some saying, what's up, uncle? Hello, hello. It's 9:30. I've got my brother-in-law, been back and forth from airports today. Got my brother-in-law here, got family here. So I'm going to go and have a cup of tea and a chat. What else? I think we covered a lot tonight. I've got to try and remember what we talked about tonight. Shouldn't be a major problem. I'm pretty good at this. Thank you for all the orders this week. I'm kind of overwhelmed with the number of orders at the minute. I'm overwhelmed in a happy, nice way. I don't mean like I'm overwhelmed and I can't cope. It's lovely to see the support. It really, really, really is. And I know how difficult it is for chocolatiers out there. We didn't put our prices up. We kept things even. It's quite obvious from the number of new orders and new customers that we've got that it's working. So, So Sassy was teach, create, inspire. And everything we do has got to encompass one of those: teach, create, inspire, or all of them, all right? And that's kind of really, really important to me. Have a lovely weekend. Get on, start thinking about making chocolate. If things aren't going right, enjoy the mistakes. Recognise if you've made a mistake. Try not to make them, but if you do make mistakes, it's not the end of the world. Try and find out what's gone wrong. If you don't know what's gone wrong, Chocky Chat are an incredible group. If you go and post something on the Chocky Chat page and say, this is what's happened, you're not going to get a load of bump and rubbish. I think you'll get some honest, even answers that will be supportive, all right? Not a problem making mistakes. Try and keep them in the kitchen. Don't let mistakes leave the kitchen. But have a lovely week.
Hi,
Where are all the sponges? Where are all the small sponges? Do you take all the small sponges? Yes or no?
Yeah. No.
Is that the face? Is that the face of guilty?
I don't think so.
Really? Wow. Have a nice week. I'm gonna go and buy some sponges.
Good luck for Halloween, guys.
Yeah.
Make some good chocolate.
We've seen some amazing chocolates, haven't we? We were absolutely fangirling over it today, weren't we? Spiders. Here's Chili Puppy. Come say hello quickly. Quick, quick. You're going to go, buy my dad's chocolate. I don't have any chocolate in a minute. Hello. Ow, that's my leg.
I hope there's Halloween chocolates this Halloween.
It's 27 days till Halloween. It's 82 days till Christmas. All of you have got a lot of work to do. Go and get on with it.
If you went to Legoland before it closed, there would be something called Bricks or Treat. Always go
We were at
to Bricks or
Legoland.
Treat and buy my dad's chocolate.
And buy my dad's chocolate. All right. Buy my dad's cocoa butter and cocoa pearls when I get round to it. Have a lovely week, everybody. Be nice to people, especially those clostest to you.
You forgot the lusters.
Buy my dad's.
I'm the luster dust. All right, sales
Buy my
team.
luster dust and buy my dad's luster dust, cocoa
What's
butter
that?
and chocolate. Otherwise, my hand will eat you.
Well.
Rawr.
Yeah, Ruhi, go. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.